What's going on, everyone? So Austin Reaves really had a great season, and as well as the playoffs, right? He really emerged in the back half of the year, but he just went on an absolute tear from that moment on. I mean, he was the go-to guy down the stretch, right? That Memphis series in game one especially, right? LeBron, everybody was like, just go cook, right? And, you got the I'm him moments and all that stuff. And he just had just such a great season with so many great highlights and just really kind of established himself as one of the main key guys. And now, of course, there is a lot of buzz, a lot of hype, and a lot of excitement about Austin Reaves going into this season. You get Bayless, who's out here talking about, hey, LeBron, this is his best chance of winning a championship because of Austin Reaves. You have many people saying like, hey, Austin Reaves could very well be an all-star this year. And even the pay in which they got Austin Reaves for was, in many people's eyes, a steal, right? I mean, Austin Reaves, they were able to get for just the max that they could offer, not what another team can offer. There was the big concern of like, will Austin Reaves get 4 years, $100 million, and then force the Lakers to have to match that? But no, they were able to get him for essentially half of that, 4 years, $56 million. So this is a guy that is going to be cornerstone for the Lakers for the foreseeable future. And I'm all for it, as I'm sure many of you are. This is a guy that gave 13 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists for the year. That was his average. Obviously, he really picked it up towards the back half, and then in the playoffs, even elevated that further. But this guy was super efficient. He shot over 63% from 2-point range, and then shot nearly 40%, just a hair shy, from 3-point range. So this guy is literally almost a 60-40-90 guy, which is insane. Now, I don't know if he'll be 60% from the field over the course of the entirety of the season, how much of that was a run, but he doesn't necessarily have to be, right? If he can just be efficient, right? 50, 40, 90 is a big thing. This guy has all the potential to be that. But can he be an all-star this year, right? The numbers that he put up last year obviously isn't enough to get him to an all-star category. He's really going to have to establish himself. He is on the Lakers, which does have a lot of swaying power as far as just votes, and has a large fan base and a lot of potential to get him in to an all-star game. But beyond that, he also has to deliver and perform for all those other votes to really kind of be in the upper echelons of the guards. Plus, he also plays in a position that is tough, right? There's a lot of like really good guards in the NBA, especially in the Western Conference, that very likely could get the nod over him. But I do think he has a real opportunity if he can continue the path that we saw on the back half of the season as well as the playoffs. Now, to play both sides here and to talk about both sides, because I think it's important, right? How great will Austin Reaves be this year? Again, he was fantastic the back half of the season in the playoffs. Really shined, and I do expect him to be better this year than he has been the last few years. More controlled, more confident, right? The Lakers as a whole, I think, will defer to him more, and he'll kind of emerge as like maybe even that second guy on any given night, because you have LeBron James, who I imagine kind of just coasts throughout this season because he has such a deep roster, who has such a quality core and several guys that can do so many things. I imagine LeBron, I wouldn't be shocked if LeBron just gets his 20 points a game average, right? And that's it, where he doesn't have to go get 30 plus every given night. I imagine his minutes are cut to around 30 minutes a night. I wouldn't be surprised if it's even less. I do think he plays about 65 games this year just to be able to qualify for all those accolades and stuff. But beyond that, Austin Reaves, I do imagine, will be a big focal point, right? I think on any given night, at worst, he's your third best player on the court. But I think most nights he could very well be your number 1 or number 2 option, depending on how Anthony Davis is playing. Not saying that Austin Reaves is better than AD or LeBron or anything like that. It's just the role that he would play on any given night. He's young, ride him, let him just go to work, go get his. But several things. One, Austin Reaves, how much of it was like he was just in the moment, caught that heater, and was able to ride it? We've seen plenty of players do that. We've seen plenty of players just have incredible stretches or incredible runs or years, and all of a sudden that's it. Like they just hit that wall for whatever reason. Now, I'm not saying Austin Reaves is going to hit that wall, but how much higher is that ceiling for Austin Reaves? Also, the NBA is trying to sort of change a lot that could potentially impact Austin Reeves' game, right? Austin Reaves is very like James Harden-like in the sense of like he likes to get into the paint, draw the contact, and get the whistle for a foul and an and one. Now, we did see games, especially in the playoffs, where the whistle was tight and he was still able to play through that. He was still able to be effective. But if he's looking for that, which we've seen him do, how much of a whistle does he get this year as opposed to what he got last year? The other big thing, and in my opinion, the biggest thing, is him now being on the scouting report, right? There wasn't a lot of tape on Austin Reaves as far as like the level of Austin Reaves that we saw. Teams weren't really planning for Austin Reaves, right? It was, we need to stop and slow down Anthony Davis. Let's pack the paint. Let's throw multiple bodies at him. So that allowed Austin Reaves to go one-on-one a lot. It allowed him to just even get wide open shots at times. It put him in a position to be successful. And Paul George, not too long ago, had a podcast where he talked about how big of a change it is when you go from just being that guy and you're like, oh man, this is easy. Man, I'm just getting whatever I want, to all of a sudden, like, you're on the scouting report and teams are going after you and teams are running defensive schemes to slow you down. He said it becomes a completely different game and it becomes much more difficult, much more challenging. I'm not saying Austin Reaves can't overcome that, right? He is very crafty. He is an excellent scorer. He's very creative. He can make tough shots, which we've seen. That usually bodes well for those types of players. But still, it is a real question of, can Austin Reaves translate the success of last year and have that bleed over into this year so that way he can continue that success? Now, as far as him being an all-star level, the only way I really see that happening is if he's at least a 25-5 guy. Now, that I don't think is unrealistic for Austin Reaves this year. I really don't. Austin Reaves, again, he was a 13-3-3 guy, and until the last like 20 games of the season or whatever, he was kind of an afterthought in a lot of ways, right? He wasn't starting at times. Like, it was a different scenario for Austin Reaves, where I think this year, I think he gets the shots. I think he gets the opportunity. I think he gets the chance to really kind of take over games more. And I could see Darvin Ham running sets where he's kind of the guy on the floor, right? You have Anthony Davis and LeBron James sitting out. They're getting some rest, especially the nights that they just take off entirely. I think those nights you really get to see Austin Reaves go be him, right? You get to see him kind of take over and allow to kind of just do what he wants to do. There's also talks about the Lakers wanting to allow Austin Reaves to play point guard more, which if that happens, that means he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot more, which means that'll give him the ability to make decisions, which should up his assist totals as well as up his just scoring, right? Because he can now decide, okay, what am I taking this shot? Oh, they left me open. Oh, the defender's sagging off of me. Oh, I blew by the defender. Let me get up and go get a bucket, right? And also, he's got to be able to find that balance of like, okay, like I'm not just going to take 10 straight shots, but I'm going to take what the defense gives me, right? And he's shown the ability to do that, and I do think that he is capable of that. But he's going to have to provide another sort of level, I think, if he's going to be an all-star, right? Now, 25-5 is really good. But by today's NBA standards and what you see for a lot of the all-stars in the league, I think some of that would also just be circumstance. He's not the number one guy. He's not even really the number two guy technically. And again, I do think he can be that on any given night, but he's not really. And I do think he'll get a boost from like the Lakers fan base, right? Like, I think if he was on a team like, say, Detroit, and he gave you 25-5, I don't think he'd be an all-star. But on the Lakers, where the lights are bright and the stage is big, and you got a LeBron James and Anthony Davis on your roster, and you're putting up those kind of stats, all of a sudden, you start getting those nods, and I think that would be rightfully so, right? Because obviously, if he was getting 20 shots a game on his efficiency, he'd be dropping 40 points a night. I don't think he gets that. I think he gets somewhere around 15 shots a game. But if he can be a 50, 40, close to 90 guy, then I absolutely think on those 15 shot attempts, he can go get you 20 points easy on any given night. Right. And he will have those games where he drops 30. He might even have a game where he drops 40 or something and just goes off, right? Catches fire, especially if he's more of a focal point this year. So that wouldn't surprise me. But he's going to have a couple, at least in my opinion, he's going to have a couple like real standout games, right? Where it leaves a lasting memory. Right, like I said, like maybe he goes and gets 40, or maybe he gets he has a 38-8 game, something like that, where it's like, man, something that really kind of stands out to the public, to non-Laker fans, to the media, or he just has like a really great stretch, right? Where let's say the Lakers go on an 8-game win streak, and Austin Reaves is like the leading scorer with 24 a game. 25 a game, something like that. Then I think, yes, definitely he'll start getting that recognition. He'll start getting that attention that should lead and translate to the votes that he would need to become an all-star. If I had to make a wager on it, I don't think he would be an all-star just because it is such a guard-heavy league, especially in the West. Because again, you got guys like Ja whenever he comes back. You got Kyrie, Luka, you got Murray, you got several guys that can easily make an argument for over him. And so I think it would be really tough. I wouldn't be surprised, right? If that ends up happening, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Also, does Dame stay in Portland? There's talks about that. Does James Harden end up going to the Clippers or something? He's trying to force his way to the Clippers. Then that just adds another guard to the Western Conference. That just makes things tough. It's a very... I didn't even mention Steph, guys like that, right? It's very jam-packed as far as guard play goes. So I think it's tough. I think it'll be really tough. But I don't think it's impossible. Right? Especially, if Ja misses 20 games and, he's, he comes back a little rusty, stuff like that, and Reaves has really established himself early on in the season. Things could fall your way and all of a sudden you get it. Or he could get, maybe if somebody, every year, somebody just misses the All-Star game, whether it's through injury or just, they need the extra rest or whatever. So maybe he is the next in line for that. So I wouldn't be shocked, but I do think it will be tough. But regardless, I do expect Austin Reaves to have an all-star level season. Even if he doesn't get the nod and he doesn't get in, I think he at least displays and I think that you can make an argument, right? Every year you got those snubs. I think you can make an argument Austin Reaves will be one of those snubs if that ends up happening. But anyway, those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think Austin Reaves will be an all-star this year? Do you think he won't? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments.